friends, and welcome back to Prophetic Conversations with Ash and Em. My name is Emily. I'm here with my co-host, Ashley.
Hello, hello.
And we're super excited about this one. As you know, we have done a couple of episodes here and there where we call them Revivalist Spotlights, where we're just choosing someone who has given their all to King Jesus and just asking them questions about their life, their mission, their call, their story. And tonight we're going to do that. Not tonight. It is not tonight. It is today.
This episode's a little bit of an anomaly for us.
We're actually recording and there's daylight outside, which is wild.
In person.
In person. Like, we're sitting on my couch right now. I'm so here for this.
Same.
But we wanted to do our stories.
Yeah.
Because we are both revivalists and life has changed even since the beginning of this podcast, honestly. It's been
since the beginning
couple
of this
years.
Year.
Yeah, fair. But we wanted to kind of capture our stories up until now. And
yeah,
because we both know we are both called by the Lord to do amazing things. One of Ashley's amazing things is her 5 children. When is this coming out? 6 children.
We can edit.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. Baby bump. Little baby bump. We are recording this while Ashley is still pregnant, but by the time it comes out, it's probably going to be quite a few babies.
Yeah.
Well, just one more baby.
Just one more baby.
But
yeah, so at the time of recording, I'm like almost 23 weeks pregnant. And I typically give birth around 38 weeks. So well over halfway done. Well, not well, but halfway done. And yeah, by the time this comes out, it could be very well past the point of birth. So,
or right there.
Yeah,
we're not entirely sure.
We don't have this date, the release date for these episodes slotted. So that's okay.
There's so many episodes we've already recorded, and I'm just like, I don't know where this is going.
Yeah,
it's just going on the list. It's fine.
It's fine.
Anyway, so to get started, Ashley, will you tell me, like, what's your story of how you came to the Lord?
Okay, so how I gave my life to the Lord. I had the privilege of growing up in a Christian home with parents that truly loved the Lord and really brought us up in the ways and admonition of the Lord. I often joke that I'm 33 years old and I've been a Christian for 33 years. So I really do identify as a lifelong believer. I do remember having a moment where, I said the prayer when I was about 4 or 5. My older sister and younger sister and I were all playing ballerina. We had these little leotards and tutus. They're red, white, and blue with sequins all over them. And my older sister led me through that prayer. I remember I have a very vivid memory of standing in this narrow space between the wall in my parents' bed. Why we were in that area, I don't know, but I like remember the space.
Wow.
I remember what I was wearing, so it was a very marked moment.
Yeah.
And I was around 4 or 5. And that would have been like when I said that, Jesus come into my heart prayer. But, being raised in a home by parents that love the Lord and are actively pursuing him, there's just, and I've seen this in my own kids, there's something very pure in them that recognizes the Lord even before they've necessarily said the prayer, and yes, they have to come to a point. I don't want to negate the importance of individuals making that decision and committing their life to the Lord. But at the same time, I recognize this thing that it was there before an ability to be like, yes, I'm going to give my life to this.
There is a spiritual dynamic of, the parents being raised and being steadfast in the Lord, and then the entire family gets saved.
Yeah.
Peter being let out of one of the jail cells that opened for him.
Yeah.
And the jail guy being like, I'm going to kill myself. And Peter's like, no, we're all still here. It's fine. Da, da, da. And the jail guy coming to him and saying, like, this is very vivid in my memory, so I don't know if this is actually like legitimate, but coming to him and saying like, what must I do to be saved? And then saying, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. There is something to be said for, the parents.
Yeah.
Basically like having children that will also serve the Lord.
Yeah.
That is a reality that happens.
Yes.
And I don't think it's...
No, and I do think, and that's kind of one thing I just wanted to make that disclaimer, because it is important that those children do go on to make a decision for their own life. And that's even part of my story. Like later on, I would have been about 13. And, as most 13-year-olds do, they begin to struggle with all kinds of hormones and emotions and things.
Oh gosh, puberty.
Yes. So I remember being about 13 and just, struggling with all of the things. And I remember my mom sitting down with me, and we actually went for a drive. And she said to me, she was like, you cannot ride the coattails of your dad and I forever. Like, you have to make a decision to follow the Lord yourself. And there's things I'm seeing in your life that they're not bearing the fruit of a life that is given to the Lord. And so you have to, like, if you say you're following the Lord, but these areas of your life are not bearing fruit. And so you need to make a decision. Are you going to follow him or are you not? And just a very pointed and real conversation. And she actually gave me the space to make my own decision, and not you have to make this decision, but you need to make a decision one way or another. But you can't say one thing and be another, you have to.
I actually really love the way she handled that.
I do too. Very much so. And so I spent a couple of days, I remember earnestly praying about it. And I can't really say that I had some grand encounter with the Lord. There was no vision. There was no, oh, he said this to me, but he did a work in me in that couple of days when I would, I really just, my heart was I want to give my life to him. I don't want to just go with the whims of my flesh. I want my life to be given unto him. I want him to be the Lord of my life.
Yeah.
And so after a couple of days, I just went back to my mom and, said, yes, I want to give all in, And so she prayed with me, and just a moment of really kind of just rededicating my life to the Lord. I think that really set the tone for my life. That was a moment of yes, this is what I'm going to give my life unto.
Yeah.
About a year, maybe 2 later, would have been when I took my first missions trip to Haiti, which resulted in me being just falling in love with the idea of missions and knowing that was what I wanted to give my life to.
Tell me about that. What happened in Haiti that made you fall in love with it?
Again, I can't say that there was a specific notable encounter, but it was enough of a seed that was done within me that watching the missionaries, because what we did, we went and we worked more, we did some projects for the missionaries rather than, being out in the community itself. We did different things. I helped in a burn clinic, so I helped treat a couple of burns, with a lot of oversight from the nurses there that were running the clinic and everything.
You mean they weren't letting a 16-year-old go ham on their burn
definitely not.
Victims?
So lots of oversight, but they also very much pulled me into the process of it. This is the process of scrubbing a wound. And this is, we need to remove the scar tissue so that it heals properly. It's really painful, but it has to be done, kind of a thing. So I don't know, just seeing the different labor that the missionaries were doing on the field and the fruits of their labor, was really impactful. And just knowing that this is a worthy cause.
Yeah.
And knowing that this is the kind of work I want to give my life to.
Come on.
The next year, my dad took another trip to the same location, and I didn't get to go. And I remember crying on my mom's bathroom floor. Sorry, I'm just like, how full circle all of this is in the moment that we're sitting in now. So yeah, just being very upset that I couldn't go, and knowing so deeply in my bones that that was something that was on my life. And, you know, my parents raised us very much with like a global, like a heart for the world. We had this ball. It was like filled with cotton. So it was like a very soft, squishy ball, but it was it was like, it was a globe. You know, it had the map on it. And it was just this soft, squishy, almost like a pillow ball. And we were homeschooled. So our mornings usually consisted of like some Bible time and some sort of science curriculum and, you know, some other things built into there. And I remember when we were really little and we had this ball, we would kind of toss it around in the circle that we were sitting in and pick a different country and pray for it. And so like, and we had this book about like the 1040 window, and we would choose a different nation and just pray for it. So my parents really did a lot of work to instill a heart for the nations in us from a very young age. I've shared before that, you know, my parents even received this prophecy about, because they were in Bible college with the intention of going to the mission field, and they received a prophetic word of, you know, not just focusing on one nation, but seeing lights go up all over the world. And my mom really took that and said, you know, I believe that my children are these lights. And so, like this was a very commonly talked about prophetic word in my family. And so just this installation of, you're made to go, you're made to carry the gospel to the nations. And it really is such a big part of my story. You know, we ended up in a Presbyterian church for several years. I think between the ages of, I think we started going there when I was around 10. And that was the church I attended till I moved out of my parents' house because I got married. And while there's a lot of Presbyterian theology that I do not agree with, the people in that church were such an incredible community, and they really taught me how to do community and how to do life with people. You know, my mom and several other women at the church had multiple babies. You know, my mom probably had 5 kids while we attended that church. Mm. And there were several big families in the church, and every single baby got a baby shower. Every single baby got a meal train. It just, like, if anyone was sick for any reason whatsoever, there was a meal train. There was, wow. You know, on Sundays, we did Sunday morning church, we did Sunday night church, and then usually there was a gym at the church, and so we would go and play volleyball until everybody had to go home because of curfew. Like, you know, we were like, everybody would push the limits on their curfew to just stay at church and play volleyball, you know? And then Wednesday nights, kind of same thing. There was church, and then everybody would stay pushing the limits on their curfew to stay and play volleyball with each other. And so it was just there was a lot of community and a lot of life done together. There was usually something done another day of the week. It was usually, you know, somebody's having a bonfire at their house on Friday night or whatever. And so just lots of community and life being done. And so I learned a lot about how to exist in community at that church. But there was a couple who led a missions trip to West Virginia every summer. And they would take we didn't have an official youth group at the church, but they would take a lot of the youth age people, and
Sure.
any adults that were available and wanted to go would go as well. And we'd go out to this camp in Fairmont, West Virginia, and Fairmont, West Virginia is one of the like most poverty stricken areas in the United States. And they would just go and work on houses, basically any repairs that needed to be done. Some of it was simple projects. Some of it were big projects. Like I remember, replacing a roof on one house, and, there were two main men that kind of led the trip, and they were well versed in all things construction and
able to do the supervision.
Yeah, the supervision, the kind of the contracting of it, the delegation, like, oh, this is okay, like, and being in, rural Midwest, like, kids are just, even teenagers were abnormally capable of things that you wouldn't just think ordinary teenagers were capable of, because
You're built different out there.
well, also, like, they all just did their own roofs anyways. So, like, oh, my dad did the roof last summer, and so I helped him. So, yeah, I now know how to use a nail gun, and I know how to pull a straight line with a chalk line and lay shingles across a straight line and use a nail gun. So it was like, I don't know, it was a unique situation, but it happened. Anyway, so those trips were lots of fun, and I was actually just reflecting back on this particular piece a couple months ago, because one of those guys recently passed away, and I got to go to his funeral, and I was just thinking about how much, like, his stewardship and his heart for missions bled into who I am today. And so, like, just in partnership with, the work that my parents were doing, the Lord, like, placing people that had a passion and a vision for missions and giving their life to something that had more to do with other people than just earning a paycheck. Not that earning a paycheck is a bad thing, but just something else, just another option. And so that really did a lot, I think, being in a group of people that joyfully gave their life to something else. And then at 18, I reconnected with John. We had initially met when we were 10. And then his family moved to another area when we were like 14-ish. So then right after high school, we kind of reconnected. And then got married about 9 months later. So was a couple months shy of 19 when we got married, and he had just turned 19. I had taken a 3-month trip to Haiti. That was the longest, like, mission trip I had been on, shortly after we got engaged, which I had that trip planned before we had reconnected. So just like, that's kind of how fast things were. Like, I had this 3-month trip planned before we even reconnected, and then we reconnected, we were engaged. He ended up taking a 3-week trip to Haiti, and then a couple months went by, and then I took my 3-month trip.
And he got engaged in the airport as he was coming back from Haiti.
Yes, he bought my engagement ring at a market in Haiti, which is really fun.
This is really full circle.
This is so full circle, this moment that we're sitting in.
Like, I knew that I knew all this information, but like hearing you lay it out, I'm like, oh,
yeah,
whoa, Holy Spirit, you have been planning things for a very long time.
Very long time. Yeah.
Anyway, so he came back. You guys got engaged. You left for Haiti for 3 months.
Yeah.
And then, what was that trip like? Was it just more of the same of like helping with projects, burn victims, being a little bit in the community, but not a ton?
Yeah.
Kind of situation, just kind of like supporting missionaries.
Mm-hmm. And that was a little bit more, because it was a longer thing. So a little bit more of like, okay, what is their daily life like, rather than, oh, we're here for a week and a half to 2 weeks to do this specific couple of projects or whatever. Sure. So got to see a little bit more of like real life. You know, what is grocery shopping like? What does, what are different obstacles that come up while you're trying to do ministry, while you're supporting the church that's in your town, while you're, the specific organization that we worked with is called Global Outreach. And they, at least in Haiti, they had a fairly large compound and they did all kinds of stuff. They had well drilling. They had a feeding program for elderly widows and widowers. They had a school that they supported and did kids sponsorships through. They had a church that was it was completely run by Haitians, and so was the school, but there was a lot of like logistical support that kind of flowed from the organization to the school and the church. There was well drilling. I don't remember if I said that already. They did a yearly pastors retreat where they would bring in pastors and church leadership from all over Haiti and house them for a week and feed them and just kind of love on them and build them up. All kinds of things. Towards the end of, so with everything going on in Haiti, with the government being in shambles and being pretty much overrun by gangs, the missionaries that were there had to leave, and the compound has since been just destroyed by violent gangs. And so that a lot of those operations, the Haitian staff has taken, and they're continuing to run those things kind of from their own homes and from their own, rather than operating from that specific compound. But it's been really cool to see how those ministries have like thrived while being scattered.
Yeah.
Anyways, so.
Well, I mean, like the church is built to thrive under persecution.
Yeah.
It's built to expand under persecution.
Yeah.
We saw that in the first century.
Yes.
And so it actually doesn't surprise me in the least that these ministries and this revival is still thriving.
Right.
In Haiti.
Yeah.
Haiti, even though everything else is going on around it.
Yeah.
Even though, like, a couple of years ago, there was that killing of the missionaries and the pastor.
Yeah.
I think they were missionaries. You hear about that, but, like, one of the things that I'm just so overwhelmed by is when you have these things happening in Haiti or in Nigeria right now, or the missionaries still say yes.
Right.
Which is just so incredible to me.
Yeah.
And like I see that in you and John of like this same like send us to the worst places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be totally fair and transparent, the areas that we're looking on going in Haiti is far removed from.
Sure, but it's still in the same country.
Yeah.
You're on the same island.
Right.
It's very interesting to me how you and John, and I won't go into this too much because I want you to share it, but you and John have a very specific vision the Lord has given you for your missions life and like what it is that God is calling you to do. It's very interesting to me that your trips have been that life.
Yeah.
You guys weren't necessarily the ones on the ground in the community doing all the things. You guys are supporting the missionaries. So you went on that 3-month trip. You came home. You got married, obviously. You had your first of many. Tell me about what the Lord was doing there.
Yeah. So right after I found out I was pregnant with our first, we actually got to take our first trip to Haiti together.
Oh, wow.
And that, actually another kind of full circle situation is, we went up to the Northwest on that trip, was like the main portion of that trip. We were up in the Northwest, and, there were a couple of days in that 3 weeks that I actually went to Bombardopolis, and and John didn't get to go because he was helping with a construction project, but a portion of our team went into Bombardopolis for a couple of days, and I was there. And so
is that where John was just at?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's kind of just really another fun little touch point, of like, what in the world,
Man, the Lord had this planned out from the beginning.
It's so wild.
Like, if this actually ends up happening and this being the direction you guys end up going, like,
right.
The ridiculousness of how the Lord set this up.
Right. Like people talk about string theory and like, it's like that, but with a country, which is just really cool. And it feels like just really appropriate that our first like longer term location would be Haiti. Like that just feels right.
And your children's first location, like the first location that one of your children ever went to was Haiti.
Yeah. And actually, like the first time I got to hear his heartbeat, we were in Haiti.
That's wild.
I went for a friend's wedding when I was a baby. He was not quite one, and I took him with me. So he's been to Haiti. Like, it's just cool. Like, there's so many little touch points throughout our life.
Yeah, but it's interesting to me. Yeah, but it's interesting to me that one of the things you were worried about was your first not having a ton of time as a missionary before he's an adult and he can do what he wants, Right. And I remember us having a conversation about that, probably a few conversations about that. Yeah. And you were like, your first is only going to have like a little bit of time, like maybe a year or two. Mm-hmm. And then he'll be 18 and able to do what he wants and going home and going to college, whatever he wants. And so it's interesting to me that if the Lord is actually speeding up the timeline, I wonder how much of that was in response to your desire that he experienced missionary life.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you guys went to Haiti together.
Yeah.
And
that was actually the only time we've gotten to take a mission trip together until this past summer.
Wow.
Because, after that we had kids and
somebody's got to stay home.
Somebody's got to, right. And it was just never like, we never had the funds to do like an everybody trip or whatever the specific thing was that we were going to do was like, oh, well, this is a perfect application for John, but there's not really anything that would be good for the kids and I to do. And even honestly, like in the, I guess, 13 years now in between that trip and where we are now, it's just been sending John, until last year. Was that just last year?
As of this recording, yeah, it was just last year.
We went to Zanzibar.
Maybe.
Yeah, because that was it was September.
Was it 2 years ago?
No, it was September of last year.
Yeah, you've only been gone for a year and some change, haven't you?
Yeah.
Huh. Wild. Yeah, it would have been.
So much has happened.
Oh my gosh, dude. So
much
has happened.
The amount of stuff that has happened is insane.
When God says acceleration, he's not kidding. He just goes,
we're going to fit.
Take my hand.
6 years worth of stuff into a year.
Oh my gosh. That was a word that he gave me in 2020 about the rapid acceleration. And I thought he was kidding.
Well, even the beginning of this year, our church had a conference and the whole theme of the conference was acceleration.
Yeah.
And it was really, really good.
But it's like people, I feel like everybody like prophesies that, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody prophesies, oh, you're going through an accelerated blah, blah, blah. Like you're going to have so much blah, blah, blah. And I think, a couple days ago, Luke Niebergall always like posts this thing of like, everybody gets excited about acceleration, but you don't realize the cost.
Right.
You don't realize the pressure that comes on in order to get you through that acceleration. Mm-hmm. And he was like, I hear that and I'm like sobered by it.
Yeah.
And I don't think I would have gotten that 4 years ago, but I get it now.
Yeah.
Like there's when the Lord is like, hey, I want to like mold you through acceleration. There's a pressure to it. There's an intensity to it that a lot of times a lot of people war against.
Yeah.
They're like, oh no, like I shouldn't be experiencing this level of financial difficulty or
Right.
whatever it is that the Lord is using to walk you through and like mold you as a human being, mold your
Right.
character for your assignment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, the Lord is just so like,
Well, I would say even like the idea of acceleration, like you're going to go through that molding process, and whether that molding process is going to take 6 months because it's an accelerated timeline or 6 years, like it's a lot less intense to handle a 6-year process
100%.
than it is to cram that 6-year process into 6 months. But that's what acceleration is, right? And so, like, you know, financial difficulty over that's crammed into 6 months versus spread over 6 years.
Oh my gosh.
You know, if it's spread
So
over
much
6
easier.
years, it might look like, you know, a few times being one mortgage payment behind over the course of 6 years. But if you're mashing all of that into 6 months, it might look like being 6 months behind on your mortgage. Like,
I think
I don't know. At that point, the bank is probably taking some steps. I'm just giving like,
Yeah, sure.
you know, a very extreme example of what it, you know.
yeah.
And it's not the Lord necessarily being like, hey, I'm going to drag you through some financial toughness. But it's like, hey, this is like, this is going to be hard, but I'm going to teach you to lean on me.
Yeah.
I'm going to teach you to, this is going to be tough, but we're going to ride this out together.
Yeah. But I also think that like the intensity of the process matches the intensity of what he's calling you into.
Yeah.
Maybe not like the same, like I don't believe that the intensity of like, for example, what you've gone into, and we're going to come back. I swear we're coming back. But the intensity of like what you've gone through over the last year or over the last 6 months, you know, that's not what it's going to be for the rest of your life.
Right.
But there is a requirement, but it's not a requirement necessarily, but it is something that like you have a very intense call on your life. Mm-hmm. Like you have to withstand
Right.
the pressure of the things that you're going to walk into. There's pressure that comes with your quote unquote platform being large.
Yeah.
You know, and you're not built for obscurity. You know, maybe 5 years ago that would have been true of you and you would have thrived in it, but I don't believe that's God's calling on your life. And I think one of the reasons that it's not your calling on your life is because you don't want it. Mm. You know, you would rather be like a missionary on the field, like nobody knowing your name except for Jesus and the people that you're serving. Yeah. But the Lord's like, cool, I'm going to take that and blast it to the world. Yeah. You know, and I think you've learned to be okay with that, but I don't think it's your number one favorite thing.
No, it still makes me uncomfortable. Even as you're talking, I'm a little like squirmy over here because like I agree that it's something that the Lord has put on my life, and I absolutely have had so much fun doing the podcast. I adore the process.
Sure.
And I've loved getting to preach when I've gotten to, and it has been a joy. But the idea of more influence and more ears listening to the things that the Lord wants to say through me, or whatever the case, you know, however you want to word that, whatever. It does come with some pressure and some responsibility.
100%.
If you had asked me if that was something that I wanted in life or even foresaw, I would have said absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Because it's not just about the good things. You're aware of the requirement of that.
Yeah. To be honest, more than, yes, there's responsibility that comes with that, but I don't want the criticism that comes with that. I don't want the clout that comes with that. Like, so it's not just, oh, I don't want the criticism. Yeah, I don't want the criticism. I don't. If I'm being honest, I don't want to have to face that. But I also don't want the clout. Like,
the honor that comes with that.
Yeah, like that. Mm-mm. Like, yeah, I don't know.
No, I totally get that, and that's why I'm saying like the Lord is like giving this to you. And that's one of the reasons why He gives this to you, is because He's like, And I know like we're talking from a place of like, you guys are not necessarily like, you don't have a platform at this point.
No.
We have this podcast that reaches 35 people. We love all 35 of you.
We love all 35 of you.
But
And
it's like, it's not.
And when those people send us messages of like,
Oh my gosh,
hey,
it's the best
like,
thing ever.
This episode it really impacted me, or this thing you said on this episode really impacted me. It is the best thing ever.
Yeah. And
But
I would rather this stay small, almost than it becomes something that like we have to really know how to withstand the pressure of, like the amount of integrity and fortitude it takes to do and say only what the Lord is telling you to do and say.
Right.
When you have that large of a platform. I don't know if I'm there yet.
Right.
And
which there's a part of me that goes, I want to have that level. Like, there's not a part of me. All of me is like, I want to have that level. But I think a big part of like having that level is also like having to live it out.
yeah. And that's what I'm scared.
Which I'm like, I want to have that level of integrity, but I don't want to have to live it out. So then it's like, do you really have that level of integrity?
Yeah. But I don't want that level of like, I don't know if I'm ready yet for the level of influence that the Lord is calling me into.
Yeah.
And I think that you're the same way a little bit of like, I know your integrity. I know you have that level of integrity. I know that you have that level of fortitude to be able to say, no, like I'm going to go with the Holy Spirit, not with what the world is telling me to do. I know that exists in you. But there's a level, like that's going to be a very, like once the eyes of the world get on you, that's where the rubber hits the road of like,
Right.
Are we relying upon the Holy Spirit or are we building something for ourselves?
Right.
And I'm circling back to like what I was trying to say earlier. It's like you almost didn't want it because like that's a requirement of like you have that level of integrity, but you don't want to have to like live that out like what you were just saying.
Right.
It's like, oh, there's a different level of pressure. And so that's why I think one of the reasons that the preparation process for you has been so intense is because it matches the level of pressure that you're going to live under and be able to hold.
Yeah.
Not
Right.
that you're holding anything, like your reliance upon Holy Spirit.
Right.
Like he's teaching you how to be reliant upon him so that there's no difference between being a missionary in obscurity and being a prophet on a stage.
Right.
Not really. Yeah, like you won't notice the difference. I feel like I'm prophesying right now. I'm like hearing this come out of my head and I'm like, oh, I'm actually seeing like what the Lord is trying to say for like 15 minutes. But I feel like that is something that like you're going to stand under the pressure. You're not going to fold.
Yeah.
Which is your wording from
It's also
your
what
preach.
I've been saying, like, we've been talking about, the last year, the last 6 months have been really intense, but like, if
Your
I'm being
entire life.
honest, the last 2 weeks have been,
Yeah.
and I was saying this last night, but I feel like a lot of times when we talk about breakthrough, it's almost like, oh, the Lord, came in and moved this mountain that I've been, up against and been, telling it to move itself to the sea, like whatever, like I've been leaning through and God moved. And I was just saying that, so to give some background for our listeners, my husband, John, he quit his job in July. It's now November. We took a 5-week mission trip to Alaska. We came back. He left for Japan for 3 weeks or 2 weeks. We came back, took a quick trip to Colorado for a family wedding, came home, and about a week later, John left for 3 weeks for Haiti for a mission trip. And so we've had like no real income. We've had supporters that have come alongside us for the different mission trips, but then we're, he's back for, I think, a week from Haiti. And then we're trying to leave to spend a week in Virginia for Thanksgiving and then go right from there to Florida for a 3-month mission trip. And we don't have any support coming in. Not really, a little bit, but not enough to like actually do what we need to do,
Which is bizarre to me.
And so we're like facing the questions of like, okay, well, do we go or do we not go? Do we whatever, And we're like, no, like the Lord said to go, so we're going to go. And we needed to rent a trailer because part of what we're doing as this Florida mission trip is we're working with an organization that John will be doing a lot of airplane maintenance. And so he needs his big, heavy, giant toolbox.
Yeah.
And then we really wanted to be able to bring his motorcycle. That way he could like go and work on airplanes and the kids and I can still do whatever we need and want to do, just the freedom and mobility of having our vehicle.
Yeah.
So we needed a trailer to do that. And we had no money for the trailer. We had no gas money. Like literally we were trying to leave Saturday morning. It's Friday and we have no money. And Friday afternoon we get just enough money to rent the trailer. Like we looked up on U-Haul, okay, how much is it going to be to rent a trailer? $290. How much money do we have? $290. Okay. And so I sat down and I was like, okay, I do feel like we just need to ask the question. If we rent this trailer and we spend the $290 that we have, what do we do if nothing else comes in?
Yeah.
Then we've just spent this money on this trailer. We have 1 tank of gas that's like the van is full of gas and that's it.
No money for food for your kids, no money for gas to make it the rest of the way because 1 tank of gas is not going to get you from halfway across the country.
Right, exactly. And like if we just decide not to go, like John can find work. There's plenty of people that need work done.
Sure.
So like there's money that can come in, right? And the Sunday before we were at church and my dad kind of gave the little message for the offering and he was sharing about the widow at Zarephath and how Elijah goes and the Lord sends Elijah to Zarephath and says, I've commanded a widow to provide for you until the rain comes. And so Elijah goes and comes across this woman and he's like, hey, can you make me a little bit of bread or whatever he says. And she's like, well, I only have this little bit of flour and oil. I was going to make this cake and my son and I were going to eat it and then we're going to die. And he says, well, if you'll make it for me and give it to me, like your oil and your flour will not be expended. So I'm kind of like this whole week, I'm like wrestling with, all of the things like our bills are unpaid, it looks like we've got no money coming in and we're just trying to do the thing that the Lord said to do.
Right.
And one of the questions that I was asking, I was like, at what point does faith just become ignorance? Or does it? Like, is that even a thing? Because, like, is it ignorance or is it an act of faith to load up my kids in a van when I have $0 and 1 tank full of gas and drive down the road?
Yeah.
And I'm like, Lord, I want to live with that level of faith, but I don't have it. And, like, I actually ended up on my bathroom floor one day, just bawling my eyes out to the Lord. And I was like, if I'm being honest, I'm scared you're not going to show up.
Yeah.
Like, we've been working so hard to walk in obedience and just do the next right thing, to just do the next thing that he's said to do. But like, he has to come through or I can't even obey. Like, I can't get to Florida to do the thing that he's asking us to do if gas money doesn't show up.
Right.
But at what point is that also just an excuse?
Yeah.
Because the Lord can just as easily keep my gas tank full as he can provide the money.
Yeah.
And maybe the step that he's asking me to take is to trust that he's going to provide along the way and not ahead of time. And I just kind of going back to the story of the widow of Zarephath, it's like he never promises that the oil and flour will be full.
Yeah.
He says that it won't be expended. And so I just was sitting there with this question of what if she lived like 3 years of looking at her oil and flour and going, there's enough here for me to make this cake and eat it and then die.
Mm.
And that's what her 3 years was like. But every time she needed to make another cake to eat it, there was enough for her to make this cake and eat it and then die. And then the next time she needed it, there was just enough. Like there wasn't, I feel like so often when we talk about the Lord's provision, it's always this like more than enough language. And he does do that.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just enough. And even thinking about, right, like the Israelites in the wilderness and the manna, like the reality is there was more than enough. But if they tried to collect more than enough, it turned to maggots.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes we're in seasons where it's not about the more than enough. It's about the daily, sometimes even moment by moment, leaning on the Lord and trusting that when you need it, it's going to be there. Anyways, so, we decide to get the trailer. Like we're sitting there having this conversation and I'm like, do we get the trailer? Do we spend the money on the trailer and believe that the money's going to come in for gas or that the Lord's just going to keep the gas tank full? Or is it unwise to spend $290, which is the only money we have right now, and that getting the trailer is going to take all of it?
Yeah.
And we're sitting there having this conversation, and it was like, there wasn't this big breakthrough of like, oh, look, all of this money came in for gas money. But it was like something in me broke through.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to trust that what we need when we need it is going to be there.
Yeah.
And that's what abundance can look like, is that what I need right now is going to be there.
Yeah.
When I need it. Maybe not before. And it might not be so like, I just don't think abundance has to look like piles of stuff, It can just be this like, I'm not going to worry about it, but it's going to be there when I need it.
Yeah, you're living out the Lord's Prayer right now.
Yeah.
Give us this day our daily bread.
Our daily bread. And I mean, and there's been so many things but it was like this moment that I was like, I refuse to fold under the pressure.
Come on.
And so I looked at John and I was like, go get the trailer. And he was like, okay. But it was just like, again, like I think I broke through.
Yeah.
And not that it was me and my strength or anything, but it's something that the Lord did in me for sure. Because like I literally went through from the day before being on my bathroom floor, crying out to him, being like, if I'm being honest with you, I'm scared you're not going to come through. And if you don't, X, Y, and Z is going to happen.
Right.
And it's not going to be good. But then this just like being there and being like, no, go get the trailer.
Yeah.
I refuse to fold under the pressure. And so he went and got the trailer, and then most of the gas money was there Friday night. The rest of the money came in on Saturday while we're on the road.
For specifically, not for the entire time.
No.
That you're going to be in
the rest of
Florida.
the money to get to Virginia.
Yes, but I don't even know if you have it now for the rest of the money to get it to Florida.
No.
Jesus.
I mean, I know I don't know how much is, so we're raising, again, for the sake of our listeners, because you know this, but we're raising money through our church is collecting funds for us. And so I don't have access to the account, so I'm not seeing every time something comes in. We've had a few people like send us money via Venmo or whatever.
Sure.
And so like that's when like, or if I check in with the person who's like managing the account, being like, hey, can I get an update? And usually it's like once a week. You just get an update of like, hey, what has been, donated or whatever. So all of that to say is just, I can't remember now what our original point was in getting into the details of this specific story, but
I don't think there was an original point. I'm just trying to see.
You were just talking about not folding under the pressure. And
Yeah.
like this is something I think I started saying it on Friday when we decided to go get the trailer. Was like, I refuse to fold under the pressure. And this is my own message. And I'm like, there's been so many times since I preached that message, like 2.5 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
Something like that. I don't know. Around then. And like, then I'm like, we've faced moments of pressure, and I'm like, I refuse to fold under the pressure.
Yeah.
I refuse to fold under the pressure. But this last like 2 weeks has been like some really intense pressure. And I'm like, no, I refuse to fold under the pressure. And, you know, we've checked back in, of course, to be like, okay, Lord, are we just not supposed to go?
Yeah.
Like, did we thought we heard one thing and we're just not supposed to do that? And like every time it's like, it comes back to this, like, no, like it hasn't changed. We're supposed to go, you know? So just.
But you were saying earlier, like
know.
even last week, as of this recording, you were saying, you know, I don't know if I have faith for this.
Right.
This is how you get faith for this, is by going through this process.
Yeah.
And you're going to get to the end of this process and be like, I can never doubt again.
Right.
Because the Lord showed up every time. Like this is him proving to you that he's going to show up.
Right.
That his faithfulness is sure.
Yeah.
And I know you already know that, but you're going to know it.
Yeah.
By the end of this process.
Right.
But kind of rewinding a little bit, because we're talking about this very intense situation that you're in right now. There was a lot that led up to this. I think we need to rewind a little bit to the beginning of your marriage, because you guys went on a missions trip together. You came home.
Yeah.
And then your life for 10 years took an abrupt turn.
Right.
Like you looked all in for missions, and like you guys both have this all in attitude about missions and like being missionaries and all this stuff. And then you came home and started doing life, and you started having babies and living your life. Can you tell me more about that 10-year span?
Yeah. Well, I think I started to tell this story earlier and then we trailed, which is fine. But I was big and pregnant with my first, and I had this moment with the Lord. I was in a church service, and we were singing the old song that's like, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord, amen. We were singing that song, and I just was so, the presence of the Lord just, I don't know if the whole room was experiencing it or if it was one of those like just me moments, but I ended up on the floor on my knees, and the Lord just said to me, I have great and awesome things in store for you and your family, but you have to take my hand and say yes to all of it. And there was this like, you can't pick and choose. You have to say yes to all of it. And there was a little bit of a holy fear that rose up in me of like, I was very aware that was included some trials and some hard things. That great and awesome encompassed some really hard things. And of course I said yes, because what else do you do when the Lord is asking you to say yes to everything he has for you?
Yeah.
With no caveats, with no disclaimers, with no exceptions. Yes to all of it. And even the hard things are going to be great. And even the hard things are going to be awesome. But more than that, more than those things, the great and awesome things, it's taking his hand. And so I just said, I said yes. And think the first time that was really, really like the Lord was like, okay, I'm cashing in on that yes, was probably about a year later, give or take a few months. We had been talking about potentially going into the military. And when John first brought it up, I looked at him and I said, over my dead body. That is not the life I want. So he was like, well, just pray about it. And I was like, fine. Like, I'm not going to not pray about it. Like, whatever.
But also, I don't want to pray about
But also, I don't want to pray about it. But whatever. I can at least do that. You know, so I prayed about it full of attitude and like, yeah, this is so not happening, but whatever, I'll pray. And so one day I was praying about it and the Lord just, it was such a, like a father move. Like it wasn't harsh, but it was firm. And it was like one of those like full on finger pointing, like you said yes. Like, and it was like, it was stern. And I was like, oh, this is one of the things. Okay. You know? And so I just went back to John and, you know, kind of reiterated that to him. And he was like, well, you know, like you're the one confirming this because I just wanted to talk about it as an option and you wouldn't even go there. And I was like, yeah, no, I wouldn't even go there. So yes, I recognize that I'm the one confirming this. Like,
with reluctance and the chastening of the Father.
but also like, I don't know. I think, you know, we can talk about giving your irrevocable yes. And I would highly recommend anyone and everyone go on the journey to get there with the Lord of giving your irrevocable yes. But it's more than something that, oh, it's some grand yes that I gave to the Lord. It's a yes that he put in me, you know?
100%.
And because there was nothing in me that even wanted to have that conversation, that wanted to even actually consider that as a route for our life. But when the Lord puts a yes in you and you give it back to him, it's that taking his hand and he'll walk it out with you. And like there's been so many things along the way that I've said yes to. You know, even earlier we were talking about this, like this influence and platform and blah, 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 blah. And even that has been a yes from me because for me, it's like, I don't want to pick up a mic and stand on a stage in front of a bunch of people. Like, but if that's what the Lord has, then I'm going to say yes to that.
Right.
If going the route of the military is the route that the Lord has, then I'm going to say yes to that, even though it's not the thing that I want to do. Like, if he's the Lord of my life and I've given him my yes, then like, it's not about me and what I want. You know, like, will he fulfill the desires of my heart? Yes, he will. And there's been so many good things along the way, but there has been so many things that I have had to die to myself. I have had to die to my own desires. I have had to lay down my life, you know, and follow his leading. And I'd much rather do that than hold on to all of the things that I want and hold on to my ideas of what I think is the best. So along the way of just saying yes to the Lord, I mean, and even in the last year, the amount of times I've been like, okay, Lord, these are the things on the table. And if it's up to me, this is the option we're going with. But if that's not what you have, your will be done. Like, I will die to that again.
Right.
I will die to that. I will die to this one. I will die to this one. Like, and it's not always easy. Like, there have been so many times that's been a, you know, feeling like my heart's breaking over letting go of desires. You know, there have been so many times that, like, even last year, I remember telling John when there was a moment that the Lord was asking for my yes again. And I was like, it just feels like every time I start to dream, he pulls the rug out from under me again. And of course that's not his desire, right? But like, he sees such a bigger picture than I do.
Yeah.
And as much as it does feel like my heart is breaking to let go of things over and over and over again, like, it's so beautiful just to watch the Lord, like, who does know so much more and know so much better, to just, it's worth dying to. It's worth laying your life aside, you know? So yeah, we went military route, had a bunch more kids.
All of whom are completely necessary to the planet.
100%. I mean, even so we had 2 and I was like, I think I'm done. Like I feel satisfied. Like I never wanted to make the decision to be done having kids from a place of being overwhelmed. And I wanted to make that decision from a place of, no, I'm satisfied. Like I'm content. And we had our 2 and I wasn't overwhelmed. Honestly, I was thriving as a mom of 2 kids. My kids were thriving. And I was like, I think I'm done. And I probably would have stayed done. John didn't think we were done, but he was like, okay, whatever, like you're the one that has to like carry the kids and birth them and nurse them and all the things. So if you want to be done, we can be done, but I don't think you're done, and, not a ton of time went by, ended up pregnant, unplanned. This is a surprise. Best surprise ever. And actually, so we had moved into a camper and there were some issues with the camper leaking when it rained and it caused a mold issue and all of the things. And so we found the mold and John was totally there, but I was like, you have to take this thing back. I'm not living in this.
Yeah.
Not raising my kids in the middle of black mold. No, take it back. And so, we ended up just putting all our stuff in storage and, I loaded up the kids in the van and went back we were living in North Carolina at the time. And I went back to Missouri to visit family. And I was like, you just deal with this because this is our home, our camper. And if you're taking it back, we have nowhere to live. I was like, I'm just going to go visit family. So while I was in Missouri, I had a headache and I was like, I like never get headaches. And I was like drinking water like crazy because, sometimes I would get like an almost headache if I'd had a lot of caffeine and like no water, which was not a typical thing for me anyways. But, it's like, oh, I had 2 cups of coffee this morning and I haven't drank much water. So I have like an almost headache. So let me just drink some water and then I'll be fine. Well, the headache just wasn't going away. And I was like, I'm going to buy a pregnancy test. And so
the things that randomly get moms to buy pregnancy tests are astounding to me.
So I bought a pregnancy test and I took it. And I called John to tell him, and his response still to this day is maybe one of my favorite responses to me telling him that I'm pregnant. He said, ha ha, I got you.
Oh my gosh. Only John, man.
Oh, it was funny. And obviously I was happy about it. So I think he may have responded a little differently if I was like upset or something in the moment, but I wasn't. So that was number 3. And when he was born, it was a couple months later, I was like, I keep looking at our kids and like counting heads and going, where's the 4th? Like it was like, you're like turning around being like, okay, there's kid 1, there's kid 2, there's kid 3. Like, I was like, I know I don't have 4 kids, but there was something in me that kept like looking for the 4th head, as you're like, just scanning the room to just keep tabs on where everybody's at. And I was like, oh, we're not done. And I was like, I think I'd really like to have these kids really close together. So I think, number 3 was about 9 months old and I got pregnant right away. So they're like exactly 18 months apart. Yeah. And then, so I had number 4 at the end of 2019. COVID happened. Our community just kind of fell apart in a lot of ways. I was not in a great mental place. Like, few people were. Sure. Like there was just no real community around us. I had a bunch of little kids. We'd recently moved to Virginia. Like it just,
yeah,
was rough. It was really rough. I was just feeling like I was failing as a mom, all of the things. And we were not even talking about having another kid. That was just not even a conversation we were having. And there was one day I was just unproportionally irritated at John. And I knew was late on my period by a couple of days, but I was still like breastfeeding my daughter quite a bit. And so, being a few days late was like not abnormal, but I had bought a pregnancy test and just kind of threw it in the cabinet and forgot about it. Because I didn't really think I was pregnant. I just was a couple days late. And then I was like irritated at John about something. And I remember thinking, okay, like some irritation is valid, but I am disproportionately irritated to the situation. It was such a weird moment that I was able to like really like measurably analyze my feelings, being like, okay, this much is valid, but what I'm feeling is above and beyond what's fair to the situation.
Yeah.
And he was on duty. And so I had like taken him dinner and then I drove home. And by the time I got home, I had to pee so bad, but I had gotten I think I'd gotten a venti Starbucks chai. And so I'd like drank a bunch of it. And so I was like, okay, of course you have to pee. And so I'm like sitting on the toilet, like thinking through why I'm disproportionately irritated. And it just hits me. So midstream, I stop myself.
This is such a level of detail.
This is such a level of detail, but this is like just how it goes. So I stopped myself. I grabbed the pregnancy test. I took it. It was instant positive. And I was not in a great mental place. My first reaction was not joy and excitement. I was overwhelmed. I was all of the things. And I just remember saying to the Lord, like, I don't understand why you would give me another one right now. Like when I'm failing at this, and this. But if you've given me another child, I guess thanks. Like, like I'm going to be thankful.
I guess thanks.
I'm going to be thankful because I know that you know better than I do. But at the same time, like, I'm not equipped for this.
Right.
Like, I'm doing a terrible job with 4. Why would you give me 5? And was able to work through all of that. And, just, I'm so glad he's part of our family. Like, I can't
imagine your family without him.
I cannot imagine our family without him. And the amount of times that I'm like, the Lord knew that we needed you more than I ever could have. The Lord knew that the world needed him. And like, this is true for all of my kids, but like, we weren't even talking about having another child. That was not even on our radar at the time. And if the decision was up to me in that point in time, I don't know that I would have been able to say yes, because it just, like, I was so overwhelmed in the moment, that I don't know that I would have been able to get to the point of willingly saying yes. And, like, that pregnancy was a really great pregnancy, even just with like the Lord showing up in so many ways, providing community, the Lord doing a work in me of just getting me to an understanding of, I was sharing with you not too long ago about like the season where I felt the most overwhelmed in my life. Like, and I remember telling the Lord, like, I'm at the end of myself. There's nothing left. And him saying, good, now I can take over. Like, when you've come to the end of yourself, this is where I can pick up the rope.
Yeah.
And so just a lot of really incredible encounters with the Lord through that season. And even getting me to a point of being truly joyful about another baby when that was not my initial first response, but that thanks, I guess, that was a yes, it was just a yes after I was already pregnant.
Sure.
And then, this time around was, it was another yes.
Yeah, but before you got pregnant.
Before I got pregnant.
So you got to experience that moment
time.
again and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So, lots of big and small yeses along the way. John got out of the military, about 3-ish years ago, 4 years ago now. I don't even know. 2022, 3 years ago.
Sure.
3.5, because it was mid 2022.
Yeah.
Something like that. Last fall, well, I guess it was really this past spring, not last fall. What is time anyways?
Time ever since 2020 is just kind of like whatever.
Yeah. But it came out of an encounter that John had with the Lord last fall. He ended up going into the National Guard. And then through a series of events and conversations with the Lord, we kind of assumed that he was going to be going full-time with the military this coming year. Then I want to back up just a moment there. At the beginning of this year, so our season 2 season opener, we talked about divine Yahtzee. We have that episode out. But one of the analogies that you talked about was like the Lord telling you to paint the wall blue, and then you go to buy the blue paint, and then the Lord's like, no, actually, I want you to use this can of paint. You open the can of paint and it's orange, and you're like,
is that my analogy? I thought that was yours.
No. That one was yours.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm pretty sure it was yours. Now I'm questioning myself, but I'm pretty sure that one was yours.
I feel like I just automatically assume that all the good stuff comes out of your mouth. And so I just assumed that was your analogy.
I'm pretty sure that one was yours. I could be wrong, but I'm like 99% sure it was yours. Anyways. So, when talking about, going back into the military active duty, it's been something where I've just been like, okay, Lord, I have to trust you that that you're leading this process, however it gets us wherever we go, because it really feels like you've told me to paint the wall blue. I bought the blue paint. You told me to use the orange one. I painted it because I'm like, okay, well, if the Lord said, then, surely it's going to turn blue as it dries, whatever the case may be. And like, I'm watching it dry and it's not turning blue and it's not turning blue and it's not turning blue. And I'm like, I don't understand this. Somehow this orange wall is going to turn blue. It might take 4 more years. Maybe it patina's blue. I don't know how this works. But just being like, Lord, we are trusting you one step at a time. I don't understand this. Like, I'm trusting you. And just, being willing to die to those things that are my desires, because the Lord does seem to be leading this way, even though it's not the way I want to go. It's not. But I trust the Lord, and I trust his ability to lead us and to guide us. And it's not lining up with what I thought and like a weird tension of, yes, this seems to be the direction the Lord is leading, but also this doesn't line up with, the wall's not blue. Okay. The wall is not blue. And then my husband goes to Haiti and we start talking about things. And it's like all of a sudden there's these blue hues that seem to be coming through the paint. I don't know that I can say that we've 100% made a decision yet, but I feel like we're moving to Haiti. I don't know if that'll.
And if you don't end up moving to Haiti, then like we won't put that moment in there. But
if we don't end up moving to Haiti, we'll add on and tell the story.
Yeah.
Because something that the Lord consistently seems to do with us is get a ball rolling one direction and then very suddenly shift direction.
Yeah.
Like repeatedly.
The Lord does seem to be, I do want to note though, like that yes that you gave to the Lord for the military again felt significant. Even when you gave it, I was like, ain't no way. Ain't no way. I'm like digging my heels in for you. I'm like, there is no freaking way the Lord would say, go back to the military for 4 more years. And then you said yes, and then all of a sudden you're talking about it like, oh yeah, this is the direction we're going, and like, blah, blah. And I was like, Emily, you're supportive. You're a good friend. You're supportive. Remember that.
Well, I think
Side-eye the Lord a little bit.
In that process, one thing that was kind of helpful for me in just being like, no, I can trust the Lord to like bring about what seems impossible, even in ways that are like don't seem to make sense, was hearing Jamie Winship's story.
Yeah.
And how like he works for the government and the nature of his job, and how he's like, the only way I know how to do this is by preaching the gospel.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, maybe what gets us to the mission field is very different than what I thought.
And maybe it's not.
And maybe it's not. But like just being able to be like, Lord, I painted the wall orange because that's the can of paint you handed me. Somehow it's going to turn blue, and being like, if that is somehow military ends up being the mission field, I don't know. Like he can do it, And so that was really helpful for me, of just like, we're pursuing the thing right in front of us that the Lord has put right in front of us. And, there's a multi-step process in there and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And so just being like, the Lord is leading this whole thing step by step,
Grace by grace,
day by day, whatever, and just really trusting him in all of it when I don't see it.
Would you just pray for us that we would say our irrevocable yes to the Lord, and just continue saying that yes and trusting the Lord that he is going to make the walls blue, even if he hands us orange paint.
Yeah. Yeah. Lord, we thank you for the yes that you've put within us. Whether it's a tiny yes or a big yes, we thank you for the ability to echo that yes back to you when we don't understand the process, when we don't understand the things that you're asking us to lay down and to die to, that you're in it all, and that we can trust you, that when you've handed us the can of orange paint while simultaneously telling us to paint the wall blue, that you know things that we don't, that you see things that we don't, that your goodness reigns above it all, and that it is your goodness and your faithfulness that will make that orange paint turn blue. Whether that be it drying blue or it taking 3 years to turn into patina or whatever, that your faithfulness is good and it's trustworthy, that you are worthy of our trust, that you're worthy of our irrevocable yes. Thank you for all of the ways that you show up and prove yourself to be faithful even when we're faithless. We thank you that you can hold us while we cry out to you and say, I'm scared you're not going to show up. That we can bring to you the fullness of our emotions and the fullness of our insecurities and cry out to you, and that you hold us in all of it. That you lead us step by step and day by day. We thank you for your abundant provision in each of these steps, in each of the circumstances that any of our listeners are walking through, that you're in it all, that you're intimately familiar with the details of their heart's desires and their emotions that are maybe even all over the place and fighting against each other even, that you're in it with us, that you're leading in the midst of all of it. Lord, for anyone who's listening and says, I want to give a yes, but I don't feel like I have one to give, Lord, we just pray that you would put a yes in them. a yes that echoes back to you, that it's your yes, that you would give them the assurity of it's your hand that they're holding in the midst of all of it, in every high and every low, that you're with them. In your name, Lord Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Prophetic Conversations. All resources we mentioned, as well as our contact information, are listed in the show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, consider leaving us a 5-star review or sending it to a friend. We'll see you next time for another prophetic conversation.